Hello and welcome. This is Ravina from The Hindu, and we are back with yet another webinar this Saturday. We do these webinars every Saturday as part of our education vertical, and we discuss key issues in education and also careers and scope for students who would like some guidance. Today, we are going to discuss careers beyond the field, scope, and future. So this year has been a fantastic year for Indian sports. We hosted the World Para Athletics Championship and achieved its best ever performance. Indian women's cricket team won their first ever ICC Women's World Cup. Indian women's blind cricket team won the Blind T20 World Cup. All of these aren't just isolated victories. They are signals and they are telling us that Indian sports is no longer a single sports story. We are seeing competitiveness across multiple sports and categories. In all of this, last year in November 2024, there was a joint report by Google and Deloitte which said that Indian sports ecosystem is projected to reach $130 billion dollars by 2030. But more important than that, what the report says is that it is going to create 10.5 million jobs. Because when you look at it, behind every medal, every match, and every championship, there is a massive team working behind the scenes. So, what are these careers? We talk about sports management, sports science, psychology, technology, law, and a lot of other things. So, what are these jobs really, and what skills and degrees do they need, and how can someone from this country break into these careers? We have a fantastic set of panel today. We have Mr. Nihal Kolako. He heads the content and media at RYFC. We have Mr. Azaz Khan. He is from the Somaya Institute. We have Ms. Shivani Rajesh. She is a assistant professor of law at BITS Law School. So before we begin, I would like the panelists to introduce us to careers. Like what kind of careers? If we just take a cursory look at the kind of careers that are beyond the field for sports, what would they be? Mr. Razaz Khan, sir, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So career-wise, I don't know. Like, I've been told that sport doesn't have anybody who's not a sportsman cannot have a career in sports field, which is completely different. Especially when it comes to athletes, also when people say that sports, if you're not a successful sports athlete, you cannot do. So the old saying which says खेलोगे कूदोगे तो बनोगे खराब, पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब. Now, this is completely outdated, I would say. There are, it's just that when it comes to sports and people along with the sports are have got so much to do with it, where people who are behind the screen. So we need to make sure that it's just like a movie what you watch. This is how an athlete would be a hero in front of you, but the amount of work that is gone behind him, behind the screen, where people who supported him, is something which is the key to look at it right now.
Thank you, sir. Shivani, ma'am, would you like to pitch in?
Yeah, I quite agree with Mr. Azaz Khan. Usually, when we think about sports, we think about either the playing part of it or the coaching part of it. However, the area of sports, especially now when commercialization of sports has increased to such a great extent, includes a lot of legal compliances. It includes a lot of contracts which are entered into between people who are actively a part of the sport, and it also includes a complex web of regulations and rules, and other kind of legal controls which exist in the system. And a career in sports now is not just limited to the field, but it is equally important from a legal perspective or a regulation perspective.
Thank you, ma'am. Nihal, would you like to talk about your trajectory and what kind of opportunities are there?
Yeah, I think both the other panelists hit the nail on the head in terms of what is out there is so much to capture. I think sports, we can all agree, is very passion driven. Unfortunately, a large percentage of athletes who try to make it professional may not always succeed. So the next best option is to still stay connected to the sport. Personally, I went through that dilemma myself when I was trying to figure out a transition from either continuing playing professional football or being able to still help out in the sport. What always helped and what I always relied on is sort of building out a matrix of what I'm good at, what I'm bad at, what I like doing, and what I don't like doing, and then fitting various jobs, roles, be it operations based, marketing based, even just sports influencers of news, into these slots to try and understand what I'm good at and what I like doing, and then how much of it can I create a, let's say, a job out of? Is there good money that can be attributed to it while still being able to give back to the sport? So I think over time, like we've got a lot of opportunities in the sports industries, and yeah, there's a lot that can be done, and there are a lot of people who are also looking for aspiring professionals who are willing to give back to the sport.
Thank you, Nihal. So, if we look at entry level job opportunities, what kind of jobs are we looking at across management, law, science, and how competitive are these? Shivani, ma'am?
So essentially, when it comes to sports law, which is the area that I will be talking about, a lot of it is very closely connected to the core legal courses or subjects as well. So whenever we talk about, for instance, contracts between players and leagues or federations, we need a basic understanding of contracts to be there. Or when we talk about, let's say, any other sports events that take place on these days OTT platforms. It includes a lot of intellectual property rights as well as digital rights or digital privacy related regulations, which are also equally important. So, at an entry level, I would say that directly after graduation, getting into a sports, work will be something which may not be very common unless there is some kind of specialized understanding about the governance system which exists in sports. However, it could also happen that you develop your expertise in the basics of other basics of law, such as contracts or IPR or media and entertainment related laws, and then you get an entry into the sports aspect of it, depending on the networks that you develop and the understanding about the sports system itself that you have from a regulatory or a legal perspective.
Thank you, ma'am. Nihal, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, so I think given the industry that I work in, which is mostly football, there's a lot of opportunities in terms of match day operations is a good way of getting into the sport where you're still feeling as close to the pitch as possible. You can always go a step further, which is, let's say, your video editing and any sort of video creators, or like Shivani and I had touched upon in terms of getting into the field, in terms of, let's say, you can be a coach, a referee, SNC professional, medical, physio. There are a lot of opportunities that can still keep you close to the pitch, and the competitiveness of that particular job depends on what you bring to the table in terms of what sort of capabilities. Like I go back to the same topic, which is very passion driven. So if a job needs to get done, are you the person that they can rely on? Is a good starting point to know how much you really want to give back to the field, give back to the sport, and how much you want to be there in your particular industry.
Thank you. Azaz Khan, sir?
So at the entry level, when it comes to sports management or a graduate, usually it's began with the operation executive, team coordinators, like assistants to the coaches, grassroots program manager. These roles, they involve lots of logistic, scheduling, coordinating, budgeting. So at that level, I think this is the best thing to start with. When it comes to sports science, also, being an assistant to a strength and conditioning coach for the performance, the people who are doing the data collection of the analytics, we need to get into that, which is very important, especially in rehab when people are into sports science. You could be a great help. So the reality, when it comes to India, the numbers are pretty high when it inspiration wise. Lots of people want to do, but what truly differentiate them in terms of just a degree, but actually the exposure, the internship, the voluntary job that you have done, the life, the experience that you have of the event. That is the differentiator in this particular. Certificates are there, that's fine. But ultimately, if you have a background to it and a work experience, that makes you get an entry very quickly.
Yeah, so since we are talking about getting an entry, what so if someone is maybe a 10th standard student or a 12th standard student, where do they start? Do they start with internship? What kind of courses do they get admission to?
So if you're asking me, then first thing is let them finish their graduation. That is the minimum that you need right now.
Okay.
10th and 12th is something, let them play, let them enjoy. as soon as you finish your graduation, simultaneously you can get an internship, and that is the way to go get into it. If you are not playing sport, if you are there, you're already there. You could be assisting your
Mm.
coach, being with them, moving around. That will help you. But please finish your graduation, I would say.
Okay.
So just adding on to what Mr. Jazz also said is in terms of just giving back, you're in your own school, in your own college programs. There are a lot of events there itself, and be it in terms of your student council activities where you can really, that's the best place to test out with a known sort of audience. Just putting yourself out there. I think that just putting yourself out there is a good start. You never know what you stumble upon. Maybe something that you even don't like, but at least you can then check it off the list. That form of clarity is also good to understand where you want to really place yourself. And then
Mm.
you never know what could happen. The people that you interact with 5 years, 6 years down the line could be in a different industry, and they thought of you just in terms of the impression that you made. And then that all it takes is just one phone call to enter into that particular industry also.
But what kind of courses are we talking about if after graduation? Because one of my friends has done a course in sports psychology. So if we talk about specific courses, then where does a person seek admission? Or is it necessary that you need a proper degree?
So if you ask me, I come from an academic background where we are a university. We have from grassroots till the PhD, and once you are in my student, you can be here forever. But the thing is that the entry level to a sport is you have to be, as we've been saying, that the basic fundamental of sport has to be there. Your interest has to be there towards sports. Once you are in there, then sky's the limit, I would say. Others can join in because I thought I would just been answering too many things up there.
If I could pitch in here, like for instance, a lot of these issues which are taking place, at least in the sports law area, are very much in the news these days. Even if a student is very young, maybe in 10th or maybe 12th, they could still get themselves acquainted with the sports law scenario. Like for instance, most of the disciplinary hearings that take place relating to anti-doping are available in on public domain. Even many of the disputes which take place in sports, especially at the international level, let's say at the Olympic level or something like that, gets decided by the Court of Arbitration for Sports, which again will have most of their judgments which are on public forum. So there are quite a few ways in which the sports law field can be something that the students can get acquainted with at an early stage. And then obviously it has to be supported with a proper course or with a proper degree, at least in law. Many of the roles that a sports law specialist would do would require a general law degree. There are also a few universities or institutions which offer specialization in these areas, and may it be management related or law related. So those specializations will definitely help. And as you rightly pointed out, even taking up internships in companies or in law firms which work in, let's say, technology, media, telecommunication field, or there are a few law firms which also take up sports law related cases or disputes, or many of them also represent sports figures or sports companies. So all of these are things that can definitely be done. However, the internships and the work ex part of it will have to happen once the educational degrees are either the person is pursuing them or they've completed it. However, I don't think anything limits a person from getting to know the field or getting to know the area which exists in the sports law.
No, I fully agree also. And just in terms of getting to know about the industry, the best way you can do, there is so much free information out there that you can just probably dip your toe in the water. Just research about what you think, what you could be interested in. And just there are courses, either Coursera, Udemy, there are a lot of these online certification courses which don't cost as much or are free, where you can just upskill yourself, just give a test out of what you think you want to do. And then obviously, as Shivani and Zaz mentioned, in terms of specialization, getting into the field, there is then a lot of avenues where you feel a little bit more confident in what you can bring to the table and what courses you can study, what is there to offer you, sort of educate yourself a little bit more on the topics.
So I would also want to add on that when if to after 12, if you are really looking into want to make a career in sport and want to educate yourself into sports, then there are courses like BPED and MPED was one of the thing that was there in our age where people would do that and get a job into as a physical education teacher, a PE teacher in schools. But now the data-driven market is demanding much more than this, where a scientific background is much needed in today's world. If we want to host an Olympic, then this country has to be on a research base completely. So we on sports. So we there are courses like BSc Sports and Exercise Science. It become like it's the most hot favorite right now. After 12th grade, you get into that 4 years of BSc Sports and Exercise Science, followed by MSc. When you do these kind of courses, you are attached to sports. Plus, you're studying, you're academically getting over, and then you are linked with a university or a college which has got which will put you into as intern to work with the athletes. So that will make you grow as an individual, and that is just not like science. I would say people are like somebody you said about psychology. There are so many people like we are looking enough as in like in Sumaya has got more than 500 team overall in different sport, different age group, different gender wise. We require people to come and talk to student at their level, and if you are at that level, you are at the same age, you start talking about what match pressure is, all these things. So you start learning, and then you become an intern. You start educating people around you, and that will make you better.
Thank you, sir. So, this could be a very broad question, and maybe the answer differs from university to university. But for NEET, for like MBBS, you need to clear NEET. For engineering, you need JE. Is there any exam, or do colleges look at your 10th or 12th board results? What are the admissions based upon?
So in Somaya, we have to do BSc in Sport and Exercise Science. After 12th grade, uh, there is a minimum requirement of you have to be a first class with your result, and there is a physical test that takes place. That's more than enough for you to get in. Your interest has to be there in sport. So the physical test basically checks you on those bases. So not just this, even for our MBA student, we started doing a body in body test where we check how physically are you fit to take a subject like this. At least just your fitness. So we just show you a mirror that your body fat is this much. You are this here. If you are getting into and you want people to listen to you as a sport person and behind like somebody who's talking and helping somebody as a sports person, you need to physically look fit. You need to have some physical aspect of as a sportsman looking into you. So you see, okay, fine, I'm getting into this, then I better start working on myself also, and then you get into that.
Okay. And Nihal, I would like to come to you after this. Shivani ma'am, do you have anything to say about this question?
Yeah, so about sports law, at least, I mean, there's no separate degree as such for sports law. You have to take a law degree, which, most of the people opt for. Now, for getting into a law college, there in most states, as well as if there is a person who's intending to go to a national law school or many of the private law schools as well, there are usually entrance exams which happen, but for law generally, not for sports law as such. And there are very few law schools, at least in India right now, who are offering specialization. However, the decision of whether specialization is something
Um,
after they have the basic law courses, and that is when they will go on to choose a specialization where one of the offerings could be sports law. Nothing specific about but there are CLAT, there is most of the private law schools have their admission tests.
okay. Okay, so it is the general test. Yeah. There is some issue with your internet connection, I think so. But yeah. Yeah, but you're basically saying that general CLAT, which people take to get into law, and there's no specialized exam just for sports law.
Yeah,
Got it.
that's good.
Yeah. Moving on, Nihal, I would like to know from you, what does a typical work day for you look like as head of content and media? And what skills so I like had content, and content is something which is same across sectors. Everyone is into content now. Every industry needs there to be some content out there. How does content for sport differ, and what do you need to do differently? And also adding to it, I'm not sure, but if you are someone representing or doing brand campaigns with athletes, what skills are needed to ensure that athletes are okay and their media representation is done well?
Yeah. So get ready for a, a relatively longer monologue as such. So typical day at the Reliance Foundation Young Champs. So fortunately, we have a just a large sort of by virtue of being in the industry for about 10 plus years, and with high quality staff, our days are quite structured in terms of just a general catch up meeting with what's happening in the academy, what every single department needs to be aware of, and then we break into our individual silos in terms of content, coaches, physios, medical, etc. With content and media, I think the most important thing that we look at is understanding the brand. What is the kind of story or the narrative that we want to weave? How do you tell a good story? How do you weave a narrative with the tools that you currently have? And in essence, how do you give a brand your brand and identity? How do the fans, followers, people tuned into your program, to what you have to offer, how much can they relate to it, how much of it can they almost resonate with it as a person? So that is something my colleague and I sort of have constant discussions about in terms of what is the pathway we want to push out for the academy, in terms of what is the overall achievement of young champs, what is something that we want people to know about us. Is it from an educational standpoint? Is it about being industry leaders and putting that message out? Is it about the graduates? So we've got scholars from the ages of 13 to 18. So both from a minority standpoint, even to the ones who are graduating, are we giving them a good platform within the ecosystem, within our academy, in terms of, let's say, from a technical experience? But off the pitch, how are we helping them? What is the sort of message that we're putting out there? Online is very important because you want to also educate, empower, and you want to also inspire other people to take up the sport or take up the field as well. So these are a lot of questions that we sort of constantly have back and forth. For managing athletes and individuals in general. So, for example, our oldest batch, which is the under 19s, during the last season at the academy, before which they graduate and hope to sign professional contracts, the aim within content and media is to create a good enough platform for them. Yes, we have a video analysis team that sort of create a scouting report as well as coaches from a technical standpoint, but being able to sell the not really sell, but just be able to put the individual scholar. Let's say there are 23 of them, 23 individual brands on a single academy page with their own individual personalities highlighted. We want them to be distinguishable from each other, but also sharing the message of what their strengths are, who they are, both getting to know them on and off the pitch. So I think we realize that a lot of what happens on the ground, what happens with the players, with the staff, behind the scenes, is something that really resonates with people tuning in on socials. And we want to try and double down on that, give people an actual insight into what happens into India, one of India's top leading residential football programs.
Thank you, Nihal. Coming on to my next question, I mentioned in my intro that we hosted the Paralympics and we also won the blind T20 Women's Cup. So we are seeing some sort of different categories of players coming and winning these championships. There's some sort of sense of inclusivity is at least there on the outside. So in these kind of roles, how much of it do we see, and what are the opportunities like for women, for persons with disabilities, etc.?
See, I would say, a role like this where there's a big help is required when it comes to volunteering job. People with assistance is like there is a big need in today's market, and not everybody go up for it. It's just that we how we market this is going to be very important, and every academy needs to come up with this kind of requirement. Like they have to come up with the vacancies where we talk about as an intern need to come for to help, especially with special need people, which is lacking. Education in this term is so important. Uh, I think till the time we don't educate people, people will not understand how this help is going to uh, you know is going to support these kind of athletes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
one of the academy's initiatives which we had, we hosted a sort of with Slum Soccer. It was for the hearing impaired coaches, and I was fortunate to be a part of just to observe and to see just out of curiosity. And like as I mentioned, it takes a tremendous amount of care and attentiveness to be able to contribute to such a cause in terms of inclusivity, in terms of just being able to help support. There is a certain aspect of care that is required, and I think that goes into the professionalism of individuals and how you're able to really market it, being able to, while also being sensitive towards the issue, but also being making sure that the general idea of what we're here for, which is a particular sport or is a particular initiative, is taken care of. So as long as the primary objective of what we're here for is clear amongst as an individual trying to help out, then I think the opportunities to enter into a field like this is also quite out there.
Yeah, I think
Shivani,
I would
yeah.
want to add one more point to that is, like when we hosted a basketball tournament at the wheelchair, something is
There is some audio feedback. I think it is coming from Shivani. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was coming from Shivani, ma'am.
correct. Yeah. Okay. So I feel like when we hosted this a wheelchair event of basketball, so as in we were not prepared ourselves that to make sure that there's a ramp properly done for each and everyone, not just for the court to receive, but to go into the washroom. For the girls who had come. So that also was a good lesson for us to learn, and that's where we are now trying to make sure that every facility that we build has to have these kind of options available, and think about the different aspect that's required. Just not wheelchair, but there will be like lots of other people who have other disability. So we need to make sure that we are prepared. So as a country now, we all need to work. Every institute, every academy needs to work on this and start first of all the accessibility for these people, and that will encourage them.
Shivani, ma'am, are there any provisions for this?
Yeah, so if I look at this from a legal perspective, actually, it's a very good question that you asked, Ravina. Because when we look at it from inclusivity perspective, there are also specific issues which crop up, which are specific to people who are being a part of the sport. For instance, when we talk about the inclusion of disabled people in the sporting arena, there could be specific issues that come up which definitely will be benefited from if a person who has an understanding of the problems and the concerns and the issues which exist in the legal field relating to those people, they can definitely be a lot more important when it comes to these kind of proceedings. For instance, there are quite a few sexual harassment cases which are coming up now when it comes to functioning of leagues and federations. There are multiple bullying related complaints which come up where which makes us question the level of inclusivity that sports federations as well as leagues promote or apply for. So I believe that at least in the legal field, and it's something that we keep saying, that the more and more inclusion that happens in the field, the more problems we are able to solve, and the more problems we are able to understand better, and therefore tackle them more effectively.
Thank you, ma'am. Nehal, do you have something to say about this or?
No, I think it was pretty much summed up. I think when you are involved in such an initiative, which is uncharted waters, just by virtue of hosting it or being a part of it, there's so much that you can really learn and apply. And it's just yeah, it's just that's yeah, it's just good to know.
We have a question. We have briefly touched upon this, but Jayantika R, she said, sharing her personal dilemma with us, and she says, "Hello, I'm currently pursuing BCom honors from Delhi University, and I'm a national badminton player. And right now, I'm perplexed as to whether pursue it professionally, which is a little difficult as of now. As Nihal sir mentioned, I want to stay connected to the field. How can I start and make a decision?"
So if I can start that, that's a very good question. I think at some stage I was battling that sort of question in my head as well. I think I still am at some point. But the good thing is you don't have to step away from it professionally at your current while pursuing your BCom honors, but while also not, yes, you can still play professionally and still help out in the sport. In terms of what you can help out with, I think in terms of just within the association, within your academies, teams, what is the sort of value add that you as an individual can see? Is it in terms of from operations standpoint? Is it something that you would like to do in terms of leading into hosting tournaments and matches for badminton? Is it from a media and content standpoint, which appealed to me in terms of what is something as a football player that I would like to see out there? And if someone were to make content and media out of a football player that is myself, what is something that I'd like to see out there? Or it could be something as just sports psychology or helping and mentoring other badminton players to make that sort of transition. One of the things that the initiatives within the academy that we've been trying to work on off the pitch is with our graduates in terms of a plan B. That if football does not, if playing professional football does not work out for you, what is your next best alternative? And we really sit with our scholars to try and dig deep in terms of what are some things that you like doing, what is something that we can already try facilitate within the academy, what is something that you can do for yourself in terms of just learning out there. There's plenty of, like I mentioned, there's plenty of sources online that you can always refer to. Just being able to stay connected to the field, that would be the best way. While you are still playing professionally, you could always see in your immediate environment, and especially being a national level badminton player, you get to see it at almost the highest level, if not the highest level, to see what really appeals to you. That if you were to step away from playing professionally, what is something that you see in your immediate environment that you would like to take a crack at or you would like to be a part of? And then from there, then the avenue opens up as well.
Thank you,
So for the
Nihal.
university, I can add up something to that. Jayantika, in our university, as like it's an NEP new rule which is there. Each college or university has to have, earn while you learn is a scheme which has to be there in every college. What we do with our students who are playing in whichever sports it is, even if it's badminton, he or she has to come to the coach and say that, "Okay, I'm interested in this, where I would come and support and help you." So this will not just help you to become a coach, but just be attached uh, to the sport that you like. And then when there is like, as Nihal rightly said that, okay, when there's an event, you get involved, be a volunteer for that. So this will keep you in touch, and you never know, because we have got now, out of 100 coaches, we have got 7 coaches who were our students, and not like they were just playing sports, and finally now they have learned, they have taken their licenses in their own respective coaching classes, and now they become coach full time with us. So there's always a way once you just get inside.
Yeah, I guess the journey will look different for every person based on what you are really, really drawn to. Shivani ma'am, there is a question for you. Vandana Yadav, she says if a student who is already in a law school, what skills they should acquire to go in the field of sports during the graduation if there is no specialization provided. I think you mentioned that most of the institutes do not provide a specialization. So if there is no specialization, and what are the positions slash posts where a law graduate will be working in the field of law?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier as well, that there are quite a few law schools which are upcoming, which do offer specialization, which can form as a good ground for sports law. Most of the times, as I already mentioned, that sports law as such is not a separate set of regulations, but you will be doing the broader legal, work that you do just in a sports context. So, for instance, let's say you're negotiating contracts, which is a general skill that a lawyer might have or a law student might want to improve on. But when you do the same thing in a sports context, for instance, negotiating or drafting a contract for a player when the player is playing for a league, that is what would make it a sports law specific scenario. So even though there are no specializations, the sports law related work is very closely related to the general law subjects that a student learns in law school itself. Having said that, the thing that should be improved upon, I believe, is understanding the context of sports itself, by understanding the specific governance related background which exists in sports particularly. So, for instance, while negotiating contracts, or for that matter, while drafting policies or other regulations for leagues or for specific events, a general understanding of what kind of interests and what kind of rights and obligations are normally existing in such similar fields is something which can contribute largely. So that's why, as I mentioned earlier, that there are a lot of material available online which can help a student prepare for this aspect, understanding the sports context of various laws. We already have specific laws. For instance, there was the recent laws relating to online gaming where they banned betting on online games. That's something that is available online, it's discussed widely, and that would form a context for a future understanding of, probably if India decides to regulate fantasy sport or gambling or betting online, what would be the things that one should take into consideration. That could be a very good starting point. Or even when it comes to other aspects such as disputes which are involved in sports, it could be a contractual dispute, or it could be something which is very specific to the sport that a person is playing. There could be an understanding of various judgments or various decisions which have been taken by panels, by arbitration tribunals, in order to understand again the interests and the obligations and the rights that exist in the field generally, it's sports, in the sports field. So the specialization not being there, the only thing that hampers a student is the context, understanding the context of sports, which can easily be supported by multiple other readings which are very openly available online.
Okay, so it's not a major hurdle as such.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. I also wanted to ask, most of the jobs, if we talk about tech or IT or something, they are concentrated in metro cities. When we talk about sport management sciences, the jobs that come out of these fields, are they also concentrated in metro cities or are they across pan India?
So people like us who have multiple academies in different cities. So apart from Mumbai, we are also based in near Shirdi. We have three schools near Shirdi, Lakshmiwadi, Sakarwadi, where we have Marathi schools also. And there also, because since we are so serious in terms of creating a pool of players, there it is exactly the same thing. Because now my coaches who are trained in Mumbai have been sent over there to make sure that they follow a pattern of collecting the data. They also understand what the objective of training a particular student, and then following their progressive report. So they are all learning and they're all doing it. It's not that if you are in a village or you're not in a town, there is a different job. Ultimately, athletes and athletes, if you are on field of that, you must follow that, the pattern which has to be done throughout the world. So it's not just where Mumbai is, I would be saying in the worldwide.
Yeah, and just touching upon that, I think rightly so. If the structure of what you want to achieve is clear, it can be spread across, irrespective of which region it is. I think when I look back at Young Gems in terms of our grassroots program, which we've decentralized to Mizoram and Tutur, is also, it's simply that is the structure that we have in Mumbai, which was developed and refined over time, and how can we sort of fundamentally break that down to apply elsewhere. So even with the sister concerns of the RFDL, which is the Development League, it's a football tournament for the best of youth football in the country. That's also been sort of decentralized across various states, various regions, and in terms of just the job opportunities as well. In fact, I was talking to a colleague. One of the regions started off with one of the players, an ex-player who could not make it professional, just helped out with the ground ops and making sure things were ready for the tournament, to now he's the state head of organizing this tournament. He is the go-to person that RFYS and RFDL will reach out to in a particular state to conduct any tournament. So yeah, to answer your question, I think to start off, it just depends on the opportunity that is out there, which is falls on the onus of, let's say, the private sector, public sector, those willing to conduct any sort of leagues, tournaments, or events, and then you being able to capture that opportunity and then seizing that moment.
Thank you, Nihal. We have a question specifically for Mr. Azaz. Rohit Bhatia is asking, so what is the first type of job after graduation? What type of starting salaries and what is growth?
So Rohit, first of all, salary will come last. I know it's a big need that we have right now, But if you have done a graduation, what was your aim? Like, what have you picked up? Like, what subject are you looking at? If you want to build a career in sport, then you have to get into, if not sport, like literally, it is not that you don't have to understand that. Okay, I have not done sports science, I have not done administration job, I've just done BCom, I know accounting. Why don't you just approach any academy where you can handle their data? Well, if you know a little bit of social media, why don't you start posting reels about what sports is all about, how is India progressing in sport, a positive thing towards the sport, and will people will pick up. Then you will have a chance in 3 months time just to write something in your CV. You cannot just say that I'm a graduate and I need a job, I need this much salary, how much will you pay me? So I have lots of administration staff. We have around 12 administration staff coming from different field. They all started like that only after finishing their academic. They went into the sport academy, start working and understanding, and they did what was required for their expertise. So if you're an accountant, you show your expertise, sorting out the data, showing the accountant budget. It's so important. Every event require a good accountant to do a budget properly, because that's where people go wrong. So if you have done whatever academic have you done from a graduation, I could not see what graduation you've done, but don't think about the salary right now. In sport field, first perform, rest will all come your way.
Yeah.
If I
Nihal,
can,
would you like to add?
uh, yeah, so I think if you're able to really convince a company, convince the someone hiring you as to what you bring to the table, what can you do for the company if you identify a potential gap that you think you could see and how you could fill it, that adds more value in terms of being eventually indispensable to the company as to this particular problem was identified by XYZ and only they can fix it and only they can solve it. So being able to identify what you bring to the table, basis your studies, basis all the courses you've done, what can you do, and how can you sort of add your expertise to it is always what, at least what I believe that most people looking to hire are looking at candidates for.
Thank you, Nihal. We have one question, though this person is referring this for athletes specifically, but beyond athletes, I think, sir, you mentioned that you also sort of take a fitness test or something before admission. So this he's Devi says, "Good evening. I wish to take this opportunity to ask about the current norm in sports sector. The industry expects younger athletes, and the stereotype is that you have to have started sports at a younger age to make it big. It's I believe it's quite demotivating for older folks, even those in their 20s, to begin their journey in sports. Where should the change start, and how do we erase this norm that you must have started sports in your childhood to pursue anything in sports? Is there such a norm for like management? Is there any point where you are like it's too late now, and now there is no chance that you can get into it unless you're athletic?
No, there is no norm as such. As far as I know, I have 40,000 students in Somaya, and 10,000 of them are actively playing sport at all the age group. I'll give you my own example. I worked really hard to play for India as a cricketer. In fact, went to the same academy where Sachin went to. When Sachin made it, I could not do it. My heart was broken. It's all over. But when I moved to England for 10 years, I don't know, out of the blue, I was a bowler and I happened to click in a club over there. And for 10 years, I played as a batsman. When I came back to India, I played for almost five corporate big leagues and I'm performing very good. In fact, with that, I turned 50 and I got a chance to play for a 50 plus India team and I got selected for that. So that India jersey was there. मेरे नसीब में लिखा था कहीं ना कहीं कि मेरे को पहनना है एक दिन और वो आ गया because the passion was there. So I did it. There is no age restriction. In our university, there are people, we have got students who have not played a sport at all. They came to play exposure. I'll give you one small example. There's a guy who's in a junior college. He has played cricket for his life. He came for because we have come and learn, come and in an open to play option that anybody can come and start learning whatever you want to learn. And he happens to start playing squash. You won't believe within a 1 year he picked up such a good sport like in squash that this year itself in DSO Mumbai University he participated. He won the DSO and he's going to be participating in Mumbai University in Maharashtra. Can you imagine? Within a year, and this guy had no intention to play squash in his life. After 18 years, he's getting into that. So there is no norm as such. I'm sure everybody have the same opinion about that.
Yeah, that's always good to know. Nihal, you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I think it's at the end of it is just whether like from a playing standpoint, as I think that was spot on, and in terms of at any point in time things might click. From a professional sense as well, you could be working in a completely different industry, and then you at one point do a 180 and want to get into sport. Even in the academy as well, there are people who used to be, let's say, a chartered accountant and now want to work in the sport. Sports is a passion driven field. If you're able to show your passion, being able to show up, and the knowledge that you get in different industries, there is some form of transferability into your current industry that you're looking at. You just have to look within and see what structures, what skills can you really pull in to add value here, and then the rest is individual basis. How badly do you want it? How badly are you willing to show for it and show up every single day as you would in any sort of sporting environment?
Yeah, Devi says that that's quite reassuring. So, we have another question. We have Shivani Sharma, and she says, I'm a wheelchair girl and I've finished my master's in sociology and not from any sports background. But I'm willing to play sport like table tennis, but our university is not having academy for PWDs. How can I start?
You are most welcome to come to Somaya Sports Academy. We are in Mumbai, and if you are anywhere in Shirdi, we have schools over there. So as long as I'm concerned, we welcome everybody who wants to come and learn, especially you. We would be more than happy to help you out.
Thank you. Nihal, are there
Uh,
any? Huh.
no, no, good, good. Because from our residential football academy, unfortunately, it's purely football, Shivani. But we're happy to, through our various other ecosystems, try and help out in any way that we can. Maybe we can connect afterwards, and I can see what's out there.
Another question that I wanted to ask, are there any mistakes that one needs to avoid while in this career or before entering this career? Is there a big no no?
If I can, okay, so being a little hyper specific, maybe in terms of marketing and content and media, I think a lot of us are fixated on having the perfect product, the perfect reel, the perfect video. And the editing doesn't always have to be the best. It doesn't have to land every time. The song doesn't have to be the best. Yes, it's good practice to think about these things. But at the end of the day, just what value and what message I want to create for my followers is very important. Is that message coming across? And have I been able to at least attract one other person to think on the lines that I wanted to? If I've done that, that's already one step better than what I was yesterday. So I think just getting a brief of, as an organization, as an academy, as a club, what is the main aim, big picture sort of outlook, and then how can I really drive value and deliver value? That's at least for me, from a content and media standpoint. Don't get fixated on what the final output is. What you're trying to create, what kind of story you're trying to tell is more important.
Okay. Thank you, Nihal. Um,
I'll wait,
Shivani
sir.
ma'am?
You want to say?
Yeah. Yeah. If you have anything to say, sir, you can go ahead.
I can go ahead. Yes, always. So the biggest mistake what people are chasing, even we have lots of MBA student, MBA in sports management student. The minute they get into the first job they want is a good title. So now this is where they're chasing for title. They all want to be a manager. They all want to start with nobody believes in like being an assistant to somebody to start with. So sport is something it will only come with experience. So another mistake they are ignoring sports science and data. In today's world, if you are ignoring all this, there is no place for you. So you need to make sure that you understand that the performance will only come with these kind of data and will come. You need to make sure your communication is fantastic. Your casual professionalism will damage your career. So please make sure that you are very well organized and all that. Finally, believe in only in passion is just like it's just opening the door. But you want to be inside, you have to be competent. You have to be good enough to make sure you do this. That's it I want to say.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have discussed what kind of roles are there right now, but with the coming in of AI and VR, are there any new roles that would be coming up that one needs to prep for, even in law, ma'am, or marketing or content or whatever are available? How do these roles change? Because as I said, uh, I think it says $130 billion industry by 2030. So I'm sure new roles will come up. So what kind of roles are we expecting and how does one prepare for them?
So I would say, at least from a legal perspective, that the rules would pretty much stay the same. because even now we need the same level of legal expertise and legal acumen that would be necessary under an organization like KPMG. Quite a few. I think it's already happening. For instance, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, ma'am, we can hear you.
For instance, recently I was reading about something called as personality rights, where many of these cricketers who are very famous, they claim a right over their personality. So, for instance, if there is a deep fake which is being created, or if there is any kind of AI manipulation which is done with respect to, let's say, a clip of a cricket match or a cricket performance, they could block that on the basis of the fact that this clip is representing me and I do not agree to my personality being used in a certain manner. So I think that is a very interesting field. I think another thing is that, off the top of my hat, again, I was reading somewhere about wearables, where technology is used in order to track a sports person's performance. It could be something as small as a Fitbit, but it could include a lot other variables which are a lot more hyper specific when it comes to the use that they have. Now, when these wearables are being used, like a watch or some kind of an Internet of Thing, one thing is how is the data which that wearable is collecting is protected. So I think that is also something which is going to be a lot more important from a data and a privacy perspective. So I'm very confident about the fact that there are a lot of other issues that are going to come up in the sports related field, which are very legal in nature and which requires a set of complex rules to govern them and to ensure that everybody's interest is protected.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to circle back to sir your first statement before this question. You said that people don't want to be someone's assistant; they want like fancy titles right at the beginning of their career. So, what does the trajectory look like? What kind of promotions are there? How much time does it take for these promotions to happen? Can you go into that?
Since we are talking about sports, it's all about performance, whether it's on the field or whether you're doing, sitting in the office. I have a very great example of somebody who was joined as a school coordinator for us 8 years back, and today he's an assistant director. So, can you imagine the journey in 8 years to be there is something which is remarkable? It's only because of his hard work, because he's been focused. He's been so focused about just making sure that he is there to promote the vision of the university. That's it. So if you are with the company you're working with, the academy you're working, just make sure that find out what their what their achievement, what they expect, what is their goal. And if once you know that, you set your KRA as per that. Every 5 years, make sure that you revise your KRA. Make sure that you are there, you're watching your goals and doing this. We do this with all our sports. Like every team has to have an annual plan, and they do this. So each coach is been responsible to make sure that, okay, every year I achieve this, and that is what is appraisal all about. And it will take you higher and higher and higher. So provided you, what are you ready to give, rather than asking what am I going to get. So that will be the key answer from my end.
And what does working hours or like work day look like?
If it's an event, you don't ask for hours, because there are no timing for it. Because whether you works in any industry where there are events related, there's no timing as such. There is no restriction. So you have to be open when you're getting into a field like this. You have to be open to this. If you want to do a 9 to 5 job, then this is not the industry you should come to.
Okay. And one, maybe this would be my last question, but I want to know that what would be the parameters based on which a candidate usually gets rejected for such roles?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Why they get
Like,
rejected?
no, no, no. Like, of course, when you're hiring people, some of them will get hired, some of them will get rejected. So, are there any things that one needs to avoid in order to get hired?
So I would say, because I
For
hire enough people
management,
each
yeah.
year. Yeah, so each year I hire enough. So my criteria first to start with is, when I see their CV, we make sure that, okay, what is, the role is been done, the job description which is given on the JD, it does the guy fits into that, and then we let the person talk about it. because as you know, just now Nihal said that, okay, you need to sell yourself in terms of you need to tell what are you capable of doing it. So if I want to hear that, so the minute the person start talking that what is good to my ears, where I have set plan in my life, okay, this is what this guy I need for this particular job, so I know. And the minute he start telling me things that is matching, it's like match the column what you're doing in school, you start matching, tick tick tick, he's done at least 10 minutes, 7 he is capable of doing, 3 I'll teach him. So this is how I take it, each one.
Okay.
In the legal perspective, at least, I would say that, again, as is rightly pointed out by the other panelists already, that there has to be some kind of differentiation between a person who is entering the field for just because it sounds glamorous versus someone who's genuinely interested in the functioning of the area. So I would say, for instance, for law students, especially who are or aspiring law students, I think three things that should be concentrated on in order to show your interest and your understanding about the field is, one is definitely in the form of multiple competitions. So there are various simulation competitions that happen in law school where students get to argue for various issues, and there are multiple of these competitions in the sports area which is coming up in the recent times. So, for instance, sports law moot court competitions would be something that the students should be looking out for, and a participation in that would include rigorous research in a very specific context, which can help improving their CV. The second thing that they can do is definitely research in various areas and publish this research in the form of blog posts or in the form of research articles. That is second thing that the students can definitely do. There are multiple journals and blogs which run or relating to the legal side of sports. So some of that can be looked into, and publications can be done in those areas, again, to improve your CV and to show your understanding of the field. And I think third one is in the form of internships in various organizations which specifically deal with sports law related aspects. So, for instance, in the legal aspect, at least in law firms, there are multiple law firms which deal with sports law, and they are coming up in recent times. So, getting an internship in those law firms would definitely be something that students can do. Apart from law firms, there are also multiple companies which have come up which deal with management of sports personality, or with they deal with marketing, entertainment related aspect of sports. So those companies and the legal team of those companies can be something that the students can look out for and join as interns in order to improve their CV, and in order to show that they're genuinely interested in the field and not something that they're just doing off the bat.
Thank you, ma'am. Nihal, would you like to add on to this?
Yeah, I think majority from a technical and just background, getting to know the person is obviously the other panelists have covered it. Um, I think the personality of the type of person that really comes across is a good analogy is, let's say, in a football team. It's good to have a guy in your, good to have a person in your team when you're winning, which everybody loves winners, the culture is attached to it. But the second you are losing, things don't go your way. Are you the person that we can depend on? Are you the person that's willing to do from everything that needs to set the team back on course? That is it? Are you the person that shows up every time? Are you the person to fix things when things don't go the way? Are you dependable? Are you Mr. or Mrs. Dependable? Is something that always will be at the back of my mind when looking to hire somebody. Saying, okay, can we trust that if this is not being done, then someone will do it, and even if it's not their job description, will they still step up to do it? And that shows a real key message of intent. That is, sure, this may not be what I signed up for, but the job needs to get done, so I must do it. And if they are able to work with that sort of mindset, a growth mindset, then that's always a big plus.
Thank you so much, Nehal. I think it was a wonderful session. We spoke about the kind of career opportunities that are available, what kind of promotions, and at what with what pace these promotions can happen. We have discussed inclusion. We have also taken some questions from our audience members, very specific questions about their own career trajectories. Thank you so much for joining, Mr. Azaz Khan. Thank you so much, Nihal, and thank you so much, Shivani ma'am. I hope this webinar helps everyone who has joined us. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ravina. It was
Thank you,
great.
Ravina. Thank you for having us.